So this is the fourth tutorial. In our last tutorial, we went over some housekeeping on the heat map that we made, and we also discussed or demonstrated how to download information from the American Fact Finder portal. In this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to take that data and we're going to actually put it on our map. So let's get started. As my map stands right now, I can't bring that data in. I need to have the census blocks. Um, I need to have that information available to me, and I don't have that loaded onto my map. And I also don't think I want that information clipped, so or at least not initially clipped. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in, so you can download that on the Chicago GIS data or data website. You can just search for census blocks and it should come up. Uh, I've already downloaded it, so I'm just going to go ahead and link that file. Now nothing came up because my selection tool over here was comma separated value, so I need to take that up to ESR shapefiles. So I'm going to select that and click open, and then I'm just going to open that up, and then there it is. There's all of the census blocks for Chicago. Now in this shape file, there's if we open the attribute table, there's a lot of data in here, and some of it is going to become useful in linking these files. But first, let's kind of look at what we're linking. So we want to link to the that data file that we downloaded in the last tutorial. That table, it's a CSV file. I'm going to open it up real quick and just take a look at what's in it. It's going to open in Excel. I could have opened it in QGIS and taken a look at what's in it, but I think this is more useful. So what we have here are we have 6. They're called fields. They're the columns of our table here. I don't know why I did that. So this GOID1 and GOID2, we're going to use those to link that to the spatial data in the census block track. This display label, it's just a string that you could use. You could filter data with it potentially, but for what we do in this tutorial, we're just going to kind of ignore it. So that's what I was trying to do earlier. Now these are important. So you have this D001, D002, and D003, and it doesn't really explain what they are. But remember when I told you to download that that SF1 file in the last tutorial, and this is now coming back, and that's what we're going to use to identify these things. Now, at first glance, there doesn't appear to be anything that's they appear to be two separate things. This is the H3 table information, and there doesn't seem to be anything that says D001. But when you get into it and you kind of go through here and look at everything, I've realized is that this D001 corresponds to this 80030001 text string here. Now I'm guessing the D stands for Data Dictionary Reference Name. You know, don't quote me on that, but it's the best I can come up with. You know, in a perfect world, this would have just said, you know, 8003001. Maybe there's a reason why it doesn't, other than to confuse people, although I can't think of what it would be. Although me complaining about it isn't going to really change it or help anything out. It is what it is. The important thing is that now that we understand that that information corresponds to that information, we can now look at these two things and see what these fields mean in a more sensible manner. So if you come over here, you look at the names of the different tables, and so you have a total, an occupied, and a vacant. So basically all of the housing units in a census block are going to be the total. All of those which are occupied are going to be your occupied ones, and then the rest are going to be vacant. And you can see that in this data file. You know, you've got total here's 84, then occupied 69, and vacants 15. If you were to add these two together, you know, 69 and 15, you'd get 84. And you can see that that trend carries on throughout the entire area, or at least as far as you can see on the screen. Now, you would also expect that there'd be more vacant buildings than or excuse me, more occupied buildings than there would be vacant buildings, and that seems to correspond as well. You know, 69 versus 15, 23 versus 6. I don't really see any on this first screen where there's more. Well, I guess this one down here, 0 and 1. But that's the only one. There's probably not going to be very many of those. So for the most case, there's more occupied buildings than vacant buildings, so you would expect that. So I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that these things are correlated, that this 0, 1 corresponds to this 0, 1, and on down the line. Now we're just going to use that a little later in order to do some different things with the data. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. First, we have to get the data into the map. So in order to do that, what we need is we need a new vector layer. So I'm going to go to Add Vector Layer. I'm not going to change any of this database protocol stuff. Like I haven't on any of the other times I've added a vector layer. I'm going to go to Browse, and what I'm looking for is that table that I just opened. So I want to put this table into that vector file. I want to link them. So I go to where I save that, and then you know, I double click on that and nothing happens. It's the same problem that we had earlier where CSV was selected in our filter down here, so it wasn't showing shapefiles. Well, the problem's opposite now. There's ESRI shapefiles are selected, and there's only CSV files in this folder that we can select. So I changed that filter to CSV files, and then these two files come up. Just kind of ignore the metadata. I don't know what it does. I wouldn't delete it. There may be some relationship. But this is the one I want, so I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to click Open. And it's going to put that in there. Now, that didn't change my map the way it has every other time we've brought a vector file into our map environment. And the reason is because as it stands right now, QGIS doesn't really have any way of putting the data that's in this table onto our map. So in order to do that, what we're going to have to do is create a relationship between the census blocks and this table. Now, I may want to bring in other tables, and I don't want this census blocks getting confused. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate it, and that's the one I'm going to use. I'm going to turn this one off and turn this one on. And you know, like I said, the only reason for doing that is just I don't want there to be a problem down the line, or you know, since this is going to permanently edit this shapefile, I want to maintain the original one in case I need to start from scratch or something like that. In order to link these two things, I'm going to have to take a look at the attribute table first. So I'm going to open the attribute table of of the table that I downloaded, and I'm just going to kind of take a look around, and it looks pretty similar to the Excel file. This GeoID field too is what we're going to key in on. Now there's no real way you could have known that. The important thing here is the number of strings in these characters, and I believe it's 15 in this GeoID too. We want to link this up with a similar sized field in the census blocks. Like I said, there's no real way you would have just known that's what you're going to do. I don't really know what this number corresponds to. If it's just a string that it looks like they just go through and then you got 1, 2, 3, and then that's just some random number that they assign. But it is what it is. The important thing is that this string corresponds to it has an identical string in the census blocks. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to open that attribute table. Now I know because I've done this that census B1 is the one I want, and I believe that that's going to maintain throughout throughout everything. So I believe that no matter what you download with this from that My Fact Finder, if you're putting it on a Chicago map, this B1 is what you want. And don't hold me to that, but that's where I guess that what I'm saying is that's where I'd start looking if I were you. Now these numbers seem to have a lot of similarity to the other ones that start with this 170. And if I open that other data table, you can see they kind of look similar. And that's ultimately how you know that that's what you want. So basically this census B1, there's vector data in this table. So it's got a census block, and that it's got the perimeter of it, the area of it, the zip code of it. I guess these are probably Latin longs. And so that's the shape area and the shape length. So it's got a lot of values in there that create this kind of purple map back here. And then by linking this field with that census B1 field, now we can tell map or QGIS that those two things have a relationship, and so then it will be able to take all of this and assign all of these values to their corresponding values in the census block data. A lot. I said a lot there. Let me just summarize it. You want to make sure that this that you can find two fields that are going to line up, and I believe that they're going to typically be field 2 or GOID2 and census tract B1, although they may not be. So just double check that before you lock them in. And so I'm going to close out these tables. We'll go back to them in a minute. But this is already frozen on me once with these tables open. So just be aware that running those tables can cause some problems, and you may want to save periodically while you're doing this process, which is what I just did. So in order to build that relationship, I'm going to come over here to Census Blocks Copy, and I'm going to go to the Properties. And then in the Properties menus, there's this Joins tab. So it won't be selected automatically when you open it up, but go ahead and go down there and select it, and then you want to select this green plus sign. And then, so what that's going to do is it's going to add a vector join. Now you have to get this part right, so write it down or just follow along if you're doing this at the same time. You want to change this join layer to that data table that we downloaded. You want your field to be field 2, which corresponds to that GOID2, and then you want your target field, which is the field that you're linking to be census B1. Now once again, those might not be exactly the same in your table. Just change them as needed if there are variations. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK. I'm just going to go ahead and save that too, now that I'm done with that process. So now, still nothing really changed. There's no more data in here, but I can go into my attributes table and make sure that that worked the way it was supposed to. So I'm in the attributes table. If I scroll over to the edge here, you can see my new fields, and they're the fields that were brought in from that Excel table that we looked at. They correspond. The only thing is that the GeoID2 is no longer in it, and the reason for that is it should be kind of embedded in this Census B1 table over here, so that's why it's not there. But the total is here. The occupied and the vacant are over here. And now I can use that information to create the things that I want to create, the graphics that I want to create on my map. Well, kind of. We're gonna run into a problem here in just a minute. But let's just proceed on until we get there. So you know, I'm really interested in the vacant lots in this data. I want to see where they are. And so that's my last tab over here. That's my last the column. It's this one. So if I want to do anything with it, it's a string right now, so I'm going to have to convert it to an integer. So the way I do that is I come over here and I select this pencil. And it may take a minute to select everything, but it didn't take too long. So I pick this open field calculator, and I can give it a name. I'm going to call it vacant. And then you want this whole number integer selected, and then you come down here to fields and values, and you select the one you're interested in, which is number 6 for this case, which is the vacant lots one. And I'm going to double click that, and it's going to bring it down into my expression. And then I'm just going to hit OK. And now it created a new tab called vacants right here. But now we see a problem because it should have created it from the information that was in field 6, but if we look at it, it created it from the information that was in field 5. This has happened to me already a couple times. For the life of me, I don't know why. I don't know how to fix it. I know it's a problem. I've tried a couple different workarounds, and I run into these roadblocks every time. You know, I could, if these were all numbers, then I could just convert everything to integers. I could create a couple different fields and subtract total from occupied and then come up with my vacant. But unfortunately, they're not all numbers. You see this down here where it says 6R3210. What I'm guessing is that that's supposed to represent that that's 6 with a remainder of a number. And so I'm guessing that this thing, the data comes from some sort of script that uses division at some point, because I don't know how you have a remainder of a building, but apparently you do in this table. Well, anything with a remainder can't be an integer. So when I try to convert this to integers, these aren't going to convert. Now it'll still convert it'll still convert 13 to an integer. And so I could, but when I set up an expression, if there's any of these things in here, it's going to break the expression. It's instead of just kind of skipping it and ignoring it, it's going to look at this and it's not going to work. Like if I set up a math expression, which would be like total minus occupied equals vacant. Because of these remainders that are in some of the fields, that's just not an option. I've tried editing the data. I've tried changing it to an integer a couple different ways. It's just not anything that I can fix, which is frustrating within itself. But it really sucks because I can't grab the data that I want. See, if I wanted to, so if this is the occupied tab, if I wanted to get this information, I could just kind of do a workaround and tell it I want this one, and then it's going to choose this one, which is what happened right here. So I could get the occupied, I can get the total by selecting this one, but I don't have any tabs, I don't have any fields behind the 6th one here. So there's nothing I can select that's going to give it to me. And I've tried adding one in there, but because I've already linked the table, it's not. I can't change it without starting over. At this point, I'm really kind of just done screwing around with it. Um, this doesn't happen all of the time. Chaz told me that this didn't happen when he imported his data. It's entirely possible that it's something that I screwed up. So you know, I mean, I'm no stretch of the imagination, I'm an expert in this software. So you know, it could be that somewhere along the lines I selected the wrong thing, and that's what's creating it. But without really knowing what it is, I can't troubleshoot it. So it is what it is at this point. I guess what I'm saying is that when you're importing data in, you should just hope it doesn't happen. And if it does happen, you should hope that it's still something that you can get a hold of with a kind of a workaround. If not, then what you would have to do is go into the Excel file and manipulate it until it would work. So you could maybe delete all these remainders and set up your expression. Maybe that would work. Maybe you could just add a row or a column behind 6 and then select that, and maybe that would work. You know, you'd have to delete that later because you wouldn't want a bunch of zeros, or you wouldn't want a bunch of empty cells in there. But the point is that if you run into that and you really need that data, you're just going to have to be creative or find another way to get it. But hopefully it doesn't affect too many people. We're gonna press on, and we're going to use the occupied and just pretend that it's the vacant. Um, it is what it is. And if anybody's confused by that whole explanation, I'm really sorry. I know it wasn't elegantly stated or anything like that. So if you have some problem with this, shoot me an email and give me some screenshots, and I'll see what I can do. And that's the best I can do at this point. So we're just going to go ahead and press on because I need to get this finished at some point tonight. So now that I have my vacant, now that I have this as an integer, I can manipulate it with math. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this. Then that's just going to update the shapefile, and then I'm going to click this pencil to get out of my editor. And it's going to probably think for a while. So I'm just going to give it some time. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. It may be done with it now. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay, so that's finished now. And now I can, I should be able to go ahead and in my Properties tab, I should be able to make that kind of gradiated, map. So I'm just coming in here and checking to make sure that my vacant is indeed an integer, and it is. So I'm happy with that. I go to style. I may have to play around with this to make it work. So, okay, yeah, I'm in the right place. So I go to style. I'm going to select this graduated column, and then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to choose vacant. Now I don't like this 1 through 5. I think it just gives you too small of a sample size, especially since we're going to be zooming in to our map. So I'm going to change this to 100, which is just a lot of them. You can put it whatever you want. Experiment. You know, you don't have to keep it blue either. You've got a lot of options, a lot of different colors. Now this isn't going to be in Photoshop, so it's not going to be quite as easy to manipulate the colors. So I would try to have your colors kind of picked from here. We can do a little bit in Illustrator, but you know, the less we have to change, the better. I'm going to hit apply and see what that gets me. It looked like it worked just from out here, and it did. So this should look familiar. This is what we saw at the end of the Wednesday's lecture. He did get rid of the borders around those things, and so let me show you how to do that. Once again, I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna go to properties. I could have done this all at once, but I just wanted to make sure I highlighted it because it might be easy to miss if I just kind of ran through it. On this symbol here, I'm gonna click change, and then I'm gonna go to simple fill, and I'm gonna change my border style to no pin and hit OK, and apply, and OK. And it's gonna take a second, but now it's gone. And now we get that kind of rich appearance map. Because I put 100 variations in there, when you zoom in, you get this kind of pixelated info. If you had this set at 5, these blocks would be much bigger. That's a preference thing. I mean, I figure if you're looking at a point in here and you end up with something that's got 6 blocks and they're all, 2 of them are the same color and whatever. I just don't know that that's going to be as kind of powerful as if you did it the other way. Now, if it turns out that maybe I want to zoom into an area and I look at it and I go, okay, that's just too little information. I can come in here and change it. That's not something that's grabbed the wrong thing. That's not something that's set in stone once you do it. So if I just go to properties and maybe I want to say 20 on here. Maybe 100 was just way too much. So I click OK, and I see this, and I'm now that I look at it, I'm really not seeing all that much difference in the pixelation. So maybe it's finer than I thought. I guess the census blocks are smaller than I thought. So I'm actually not getting any benefit from having it that many gradations. So I'm going to go back in and change it. Sorry for the off on the tangent here. I'm going to put it at 5 and see how that looks. And I really think that you should, since if you're using this as a graphical tool, you're going to want to play around with this anyway and kind of get it perfect. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe it is. I'm just going to leave it there for the time being because at this point you should now have all the tools that you need to make this. So I'm going to leave it there. The only thing I will do is go to save as and make sure that I'm creating a shapefile for this because I'm going to take this. The next tutorial, which was supposed to go up tonight but probably isn't going to at this point. The next tutorial is going to go over getting it into Illustrator. You know what? Scratch that. I'm going to go ahead and do it and get it done with. So if you're counting on these things as a resource, they're available to you. So anyway, I'm just going to come in here where I've got all my other shape files. And you can see I've kind of been in here already before. I'm just going to replace this one. And actually, I'm going to click no. I'm going to cancel that. There's a couple things I need to do here. This no symbology thing, you need to change that to symbol layer symbology. That's going to preserve kind of what we did here. If we try to take that shapefile someplace else. I don't know how it's going to look when we import everything over. I haven't done that yet, so I don't want to overpromise it. But I know that if we try to take it into another QGIS file without changing this symbol layer symbology selection, then you end up with just nothing. You've got to redo all that work that you just did. So I'm going to click OK. And now I have a new shape file with all that vector data on there. Now how you want to approach it at this point, it's just a matter of personal preference. Maybe you want it darker. The thing I'll highlight at this point real quick is that we can, so if you want to do kind of an entire city evaluation, which is what we're doing now, that's fine. You don't have to though. You could kind of bring this to the top, and you see it's sitting over my map in certain places, but it's not strong enough to show you that. I mean, you wouldn't get a whole. There must not be a lot of vacant buildings in this area. Um, actually, um, these would be occupied buildings in these census tracts because of the screw up earlier. So it almost looks like it. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to speculate on it. I don't want to get too granular on it because I'm not certain that's how it was designed to be. But if you wanted to filter this data out into your map, you could. So you would do it just like you've done everything else. You'd go to vector. You'd go to geoprocessing tools and clip, and then you would your input vector would be census blocks, copy, census blocks, copy, and your thing would be clipping layer. I hope it'll let me undo this. Oh well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. Oh, so I would have to create a new shape file, so I'd call this vacancy. Clipped. Click OK. I got a warning here. It's saying my CRS was different. I might need to go in and set that, but I'm just going to say yes. I'm kind of done with it at this point. So if you had that problem, what you'd want to do is go to this and go to set layer CRS and just make sure it's whatever everything else was, which I believe is this. And I mean, you can see that it should still all be there. Shouldn't have moved or anything. So now that that is done, I'll turn all these things off. Why did it do that? You know, when I clipped that data, it got rid of that thing. So just real quick, let me see this. If I can, I mean, you may not be able to clip this. So, or at least not clip it and maintain it. What's that? Properties. Graduated. Vacant. No pen. Okay. No, so it changed it again. I mean, you would just have to go in and redo that if you clip it. It's really up to you and whatever you want. So if you want a clipped layer with that evaluation tool in there, then maybe you should clip it first. I'm not certain that would be the best way to go, but it doesn't take that long to reapply that kind of visual style. So although it's not doing much for me on this map. You know, I'm kind of rambling, so I'm just going to finish the tutorial right here. Sorry that I'm a little bit disorganized on this one. That problem with the selecting the data kind of threw me off my game, so I do apologize for that. If you have an issue with it or don't understand something, shoot me an email and I'll see what I can do. And I'm going to end it there.